Let's throw some jabs.
The fight starts now!
All right, Sergio, Oleksandr Usyk successfully defended his unified heavyweight championship against Daniel Dubois on Saturday, but not without some controversy. In the 5th round, Dubois dropped Usyk with a belt-line shot that was ruled a low blow by referee Louis Pabon. Usyk went on to stop Dubois in the 9th. 2 questions for you, Sergio, because you spent all day Sunday arguing with people on Twitter. Was the punch low, and does Dubois deserve a rematch?
The punch wasn't low, it was borderline, and borderline is not low, Mannix. I mean, look, this is all up to the discretion of a referee. So what I like to do is, as a fighter, I looked at that. I only had to take a look at it 2 times to realize, no, that's a borderline shot. It wasn't flagrant. It wasn't on purpose like a lot of fighters do when they're hurt. It was basically in the middle of a moment. And if you really look at it, I mean, I've been studying this because I'm really adamant that the fact it wasn't a low blow. The trajectory of the punch was an uppercut. It skinned the shorts, but when it landed, the moment of impact, it was above the hip line. You have to forget about the belly button or the trunks. That's not what referees use. Referees, at their discretion, and this I learned from Jack Reese, who's one of my favorite referees in boxing, one of the best in the business. It's the hip line that you have to really focus on. It's not the belly button, not the navel, not the trunks. If you look at Usyk's trunks, when he got hit with that punch, you can't even see his belly button. It's below. So you have to imagine where exactly the punch landed from an uppercut angle. Yes, it glided through the shorts, but it landed right on the money, right on the borderline. It was not illegal. It was a fair shot. It should have been counted a knockdown. Now, do I think that Dubois deserved to win or deserved more? No, Usyk still dominated, Mannix. That's the second part of your question. It wasn't a low blow, and Usyk won fair and square and got up like a champion. Did he use the rules in his favor? Absolutely. But like the great Bernard Hopkins did, and a lot of slight fighters do, any chance they can get to be the wily veteran that they are, they're going to take that, they're going to take the time, and they're going to muster up all the advantages they got on their side. Usyk did the same thing.
Okay, I think it was a low blow. It was definitely borderline, as you said, and I talked to a couple of referees as well, and both those referees said that they felt it was legal. So I'm arguing against the experts at this point. But I do think at some point, you used the word skimmed, I do think at some point the punch hit Usyk below the belt line, below the hip line. At some point, it was an illegal punch. So if it was even slightly illegal, that means, in my mind, it was a low blow. And one of the reasons I think Louis Pabon, the referee, declared it a low blow, in part because it was borderline. Like, Sergio, you have a strong opinion that it wasn't a low blow. I've seen many fighters on social media, Tony Bellew among others, arguing that it was a low blow. So I have no issue with Louis Pabon's ruling one way or the other because it was a bang-bang type of situation. And even now, after people have been reviewing it over and over and over again, there is no consensus on whether or not it was a low blow. But I think it skimmed just enough below the belt line to be lawfully declared a low blow.
There you go.
Now,
let me stop you there. No, you said belt line. Okay, this is what I had a conversation with the great Jack Reese. That's one of my favorite referees, one of the best in the business. He really broke things down for me. We don't go off the belt line because belt lines can go above the navel, above the belly button. We don't even go past the belly button because the belly button, it can be different in every person. It could be lower, it could be higher. We go off, and here are the examples. The hip line, Mannix. This is what referees study. The hip line, if you see it, it's under the belly button, well under the belly button. This is an example of Usyk at the press conference. There's the waistline. There's the hip line. The punch landed right there. Legal punch. I'm telling you right now, I only took 2 times to see it. It was a legal punch, fair and square.
I think it was an illegal punch. I think it was below the hip line, waistline, belt line, whatever you want to call it. I think it was below that line. I think one of the reasons you couldn't see Usyk's belly button in some of those close-up replays is that because he was hunched over a little bit in that exchange, and because he was hunched over, I think the shorts came up a little bit. If he was standing upright, I think the belt line or the waistline, whatever you want to call it, would have been in the proper place. But either way, a couple things I want to ask. I want to finish my point. One, even if you want to say it was a legal punch. I believe if Oleksandr Usyk knew he was being counted, because Louis Pabon never counted. He immediately said illegal punch, and he told Usyk while he was down to take his time. If Usyk thought he was being counted out, he would have gotten up. He would have found a way to finish the round. I believe that unequivocally. I think Usyk spent as much time on the canvas as he did because he was told it was an illegal punch and he should take his time. You could even make the argument that Usyk wanted this fight to proceed a lot earlier than it did. I mean, Louis Pabon, I'm not sure what he was doing in the back half of that incident because he was telling Usyk, take your time, you've got another minute. Usyk's there, you can hear him clearly on the mics saying, I'm ready, let's go. And Pabon was the one telling him to slow down and take more time to recover. I just think that if Usyk knew that he was being counted out, then he would have gotten off the mat and found a way to finish that round. And once that round was over, Usyk went on to dominate, dropped Dubois in the 8th round and finished him off really with a jab in the 9th. So that's my way of saying I don't believe that Dubois deserves a rematch. Even with that incident happening in the 5th, Dubois had plenty of time to go out there and keep on the attack, keep going after Usyk, keep peppering him to the body, but he let Usyk dictate the pace, and he gave away the second half of that fight.
He did, and that's why Usyk is a great champion, because he was able to put that past him, and he was able to soak up the time. I mean, he used more than 3 minutes, an entire round on the floor, and that's Louis Pabon's fault right there, because he shouldn't have given him that much time. Usyk should have gotten up. It was a borderline type punch, and here's the thing, Mannix. We've seen Usyk hurt to the body before. If you really study Oleksandr Usyk's fights back to the amateurs, Beterbiev hurt him to the body, dropped him with a right hand to the body. In the World Series of Boxing, a guy named Medvedev hurt Usyk to the body. Anthony Joshua hurt Usyk to the same body shot. It's a right hand. It's a 45-degree punch right to the same section. You could tell that punch was studied by Daniel Dubois and his trainer, because they went for it and it landed. It just didn't go in his favor because Luis Pabon thought otherwise. He had a perfect glance at exactly where the punch landed. He made the wrong choice, in my opinion.
Well, I think to argue back on that one, I think what might have been going through Louis Pabon's head in that moment. And remember, this was a bang play. You know, this wasn't something he had time to dissect. 2 rounds earlier, we saw Dubois warned for a low blow. And perhaps in that moment in the 5th, as Louis Pabon is trying to make a decision right then and there about whether or not that was low or legal, maybe he thought in the back of his mind, well, 2 rounds earlier, Dubois just landed what I called a low blow. I'm going to give Usyk here the benefit of the doubt.
And you know what? And that happens. And sometimes, and this is where trainers come in, and you have to practice this in the gym. My trainer would always tell me, when a referee warns you for a low blow, do not stop going to the body just because of a warning. If he takes away a point for a low blow and your opponent is hurt, do not stop going to the body. You attack the body until you get points deducted, because a warning is just a warning, but pain's gonna linger. That's something that you get taught in the gym. You have to take advantage anytime you're given an advantage. And if I look back at fights, Felix Trinidad with Fernando Vargas had him hurt after Vargas was hurt. Trinidad hit him to the body, to the groin, the crotch area. Bernard Hopkins has done that several times in his career. Hit the hip area when the referee's on the other side. A lot of wily veterans take advantage of this, because all you're going to get is a warning. Usyk soaked up more than 3 minutes. 3 minutes on the canvas, getting his strength back, letting the pain of that body shot wither away. It wasn't fair to Daniel Dubois.
Remember, Usyk though didn't, but Sergio, again, Usyk was ready to go after a couple of minutes. You saw that. Like, he was standing up, he was bouncing around, he said, I'm ready to go. Even after the fight, he said to Pabon,
right.
I'm paraphrasing here, he was like, I was ready to go earlier than when you wanted to restart the fight.
And that's the reason I was about to blame the referee and his discretion. And like Jack Reese told me, listen, man, I'm not going to give you my opinion because I wasn't in the ring. I wasn't the third man in the ring. I'm just going to give you the facts. I'm going to give you what we study on the ABC board of rules in the committee, and you can decide for yourself. It took me 5 minutes to concur what I already agreed on. It was a borderline fair shot. It wasn't a blatant foul. It wasn't a low blow. It was right there, Mannix. There's the waistline, there's the hip line. The punch landed right there in the middle. Legal blow.